name is Renee Blodgett, and you want to know one passion, CC, or?
All of them.
All of them. I think I'm most passionate about connecting people, I'd say. It's probably my biggest passion. And, you know, I do that through consulting, I do that through connecting other people, I do that through photography, and I do that through writing. So We Blog the World started about 3 years ago. It kind of started by accident. So I had led a blogging tour to Israel, and South Africa had heard about it. And they approached me and said, you know, wouldn't it be interesting if we brought a whole group of bloggers to South Africa? But we're not necessarily just interested in technology. And I thought, well, that's great.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
So this was obviously before the World Cup. And, you know, I just got a URL for that trip to aggregate a number of bloggers to go to South Africa. And the thing just kind of took off. It actually took off while we were there. And We Blog the World was kind of born out of this. And as I was there, people started emailing me saying, you know, we'd love to contribute about India. And so we don't really have an India page, you know, we're just writing about South Africa. So suddenly these, you know, country pages started emerging, and, you know, next thing you know, we're covering every culture of the world. You know, I think I wanted to be a lot of different things, none of which I'm currently doing in the raw form. But I think the one that I dreamed about most was probably closest to photojournalism, kind of adventure photojournalism. And so I'm kind of morphing back, you know, whatever, 20-something, 30 years later, going back and doing some of that in kind of the new media format, I guess you could say. So yeah, I think initially starting out in the PR industry, PR and marketing, and one of the reasons that brought me to that industry was my love for people and connecting people. You know, it's not about the end game, it's actually about the journey. It's always about the journey. And I think having done this for as many years as I've been doing it, one of the things that I was thinking about just this morning for the very first time, why am I finding myself behind a camera more than I am with people now? And it's morphed, and I think one of the reasons that it's morphed is, you know, when you've been networking and being in this kind of place for 20 years, right, you find that a lot of the talk, it's small talk, right, and you're not actually getting to their authentic place. And so when I'm behind a camera, what's interesting is rather than having to go into industry chat for an hour, I can view someone from afar and really kind of get to their essence in a way that I couldn't before. And I started noticing that as I was shooting more in the industry, right, shooting more industry people, I was actually learning more about them, more about their authentic place from not talking to them, right, and shooting them, you know, with my camera than I was having a conversation. And so, you know, it kind of, it dovetailed, if you like, back into what I really care about, which is people. Safe is a bad word. Safe keeps you from doing all the things that you should be doing in your life. If you think about what is most fearful for you, that's what you should dive into. Because it's actually jumping and diving into that fear and meeting it head on is when you're actually going to really start experiencing life. And it sounds like, you know, a lot of people come to me and say, well, you know, you don't have 4 kids and a house and a mortgage and, you know, I mean, they worry about all these things. You don't have to put 5 people, you know, through college. But, you know, if you think about it, when you're living from that place of inspiration, things just happen, right? The universe provides you what you need, and by stepping through that door and just embracing it, everything shows up, you know? I mean, it may not show up in the exact way that you imagined it, but it shows up anyway. And I think, you know, just trusting that the doors will open for you, you will meet the people that you're supposed to meet. I mean, I used to go to networking events, and you know, I laugh at this because a friend of mine who's a well-known venture capitalist in the Valley, he called me once a hunter. You know, and it was funny, he's like, I know a hunter because I'm a hunter too. You know, you walk in and you're like, okay, I need to meet all of these people for my clients and I need to get all of these things done, like a task list. And I don't do that anymore. Now, you know, I go into a room and I just trust that I'm actually going to meet who I'm supposed to meet and know more. And it's a very interesting shift, right? Because, you know, there is no one person you're supposed to meet, but I find that I have the conversations I'm supposed to happen, the projects happen that, that I'm, supposed to be doing. The people show up, right? The budgets emerge, and I think it's a different mind shift in the way that you think about the world. But once you go to that mind shift, right, your passions follow, the money follows, and a very inspirational life follows. But I think the one which was just kind of a pivotal thing, just a little gray, thin line that made a difference. So when you think about when you want to make a decision about doing something that you're really passionate about, a lot of times we get stuck in our heads, right? We get stuck in our heads that if I make that decision, I'm not going to have the money to do it, or I'm not going to, I don't have enough experience to do it, or all these like what ifs stop you, and they kind of create this like myriad of confusion in your head, and it halts you from actually moving forward, when really the only thing you need to do is just make the decision. And I think, it sounds like it's something so small, but it's actually like literally writing it down and making the decision. When I was once, I was in Vegas for, CES or for a conference, and someone said to me, "Where do you live?" And this was at a point where I was in conflict about moving to the West Coast, right? And that's kind of in a place where we're stumped, like, no, we can't do it, or it's going to be hard to do it, or I don't have the network, I don't have the tools or the resources that I need. And suddenly, just out of my mouth came, well, I'm bi-coastal. I actually live in Boston and I live in California. And I'd been thinking about this for a while, but I really didn't. And then the next question came, well, where do you live in San Francisco? And of course, I hadn't moved there yet. I hadn't even made one move. And I said, I live in a colored house in Noe Valley. And at the moment that I said that, it was amazing. The subsequent weeks, I was in California within 2 months of making that statement. And so I think that's what I mean by making the decision. You state it, and so therefore it becomes so, because everything comes together to make that journey for you happen. And the moment that I stated, of course I had to make it, right? And so I would just encourage people to, just to, rather than overthink things, just let it go, and sort of be peaceful with the fact that it's not going to be the perfect journey that you imagined, but it's going to be a much more exciting ride. I don't know. I guess I sort of think like if I had access to whatever camera equipment that I wanted, and a helicopter, and I could shoot whatever I wanted with whatever equipment, with whatever resources, I don't know, I would want to trade places with someone who had access to that. And I can't think of someone off the top of my head, but every time I think of a shot or I see something, I think, I need to be hanging off a cliff to get this, or I need a ladder, or I need someone to hold me from, 2,000 feet upside down to get the shot that I want. And I think about this all the time now, now that I'm shooting more. I think, like, just yesterday at the hotel, a guy with this hat, amazing, right, with this painting, that shot like straight up to the sky, and I thought, man, I've got the shot, right? I need a different lens, and I need to be up there shooting down. Well, so I'm working on a photo book. You may not know that. I'm working on a photo book, and it is, it's actually about where heart meets technology. And the concept and the premise is, I'm shooting people who are not necessarily in technology, but it's peripheral to what they do in a big way, so they're using it in a big way. But the caveat is that they always go back to a place of heart and humanity for their inspiration and their decision making. So I've shot about 50 of the 100 people I'm curating for this project. And, I'd like to get some more women in my book, and 3 women have turned me down so far, which has been very frustrating. And so I've been thinking of all the people that I do want to shoot. And, I thought about Warren Buffett, and some people are confused by that. And I thought if I get Bill Gates, I'll get Warren Buffett, because, if they're both in the book. But, God, that's a really tough question. I mean, I'd love to shoot the Dalai Lama. Oh, I would absolutely love to shoot the Dalai Lama, probably before Warren Buffett. But, you know, both of them intrigue me for different reasons. And, you know, I think I would want to shoot the Dalai Lama in a place that was entirely opposite to where you would imagine him, right? Completely opposite colors, opposite energy, and just have him kind of be in that place, because I think what that would represent for me, it would represent this place that, you know, that's what Buddhism is really about, right? When all of this crazy energy is happening around you in your head, it's just, you know, it's chattering and chattering, and you're trying to meditate and you can't. Well, the Dalai Lama, I mean, it doesn't matter for him, right? He's just in this solitude, peaceful, present place regardless of the environment. And I think that would demonstrate that, right? Opposed to being in a place of solitude and serenity as we see it. And I think, you know, someone like a Warren Buffett, you know, I don't know, I think on a horse and in the plains, right, with tall grass and a hat, a leather hat.